In the realm of African politics, the words of Ahmed Sekou Touré resonate with profound relevance. Praise from colonizers often signals a betrayal of one's own people. This adage serves as a crucial lens through which we must examine the actions and policies of contemporary African leaders. A striking case is that of Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo, who has recently asserted that withdrawal of French troops from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger has exacerbated terrorism in the region. This claim raises significant concerns and invites us to question the motivations behind such statements, particularly in light of historical context and empirical evidence. Akufo-Addo's assertion comes at a time when the Sahel region is grappling with unprecedented levels of violence and instability. The Global Terrorism Index has documented a dramatic increase in terror-related deaths following the military interventions of Western powers, particularly after the chaos unleashed by the 2011 NATO invasion of Libya. This invasion not only destabilized Libya, but also had ripple effects throughout North and West Africa, contributing to the rise of extremist groups and an escalation in violence.
They have to do that. They are three important members of our community, and we can't just wash our hands off them.
Right. What they've done is wash their hands off ECOWAS. When it came to promising transitions, there were sanctions were lifted. They played around with ECOWAS, and the intentions are pretty clear. They want to stay in power.
That's obvious, and that has to stress.
You were taken for a ride. That was my
well, it may well be, but whatever be the case, that cannot mean that we will stop wanting to work to see what the possibilities are of a reintegration of the three countries back into ECOWAS. There's no reason for us to continue to wash our hands off them. Even if they want to wash their hands off, we cannot wash our hands off them.
Let's take the example of Niger.
Right.
Niger, there's a coup. Elected President Mohamed Bazoum arrested. ECOWAS says we want him out, and we're threatening military intervention.
It hasn't happened.
1 year later, military intervention is off the table, unless I missed something. And President Bazoum is in jail, and no one says anything.
It is an unacceptable position.
Should there have been a military intervention?
I don't want to get into that discussion. It didn't happen,
and it won't happen.
Well, how states evolve and how policies evolve, you cannot predict. But at the moment, it's not happening, and Bazoum is still in prison. I think that his position is unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable that a democratically elected leader like Bazoum should be treated in the manner in which he has been treated. Essentially, people are throwing mud in the face of the Nigerian people. We have to continue to insist on his freedom. As far as I'm concerned, his freedom, unconditional freedom, is still very much on the table, and we will continue to agitate for it and to be part of the ECOWAS demand that he be freed as soon as possible.
Speaking of security, French troops left. Those countries said, we're going to take care of security ourselves, bring Russian mercenaries or whatever. You are a neighbor of Burkina Faso. From your viewpoint, has the situation worsened since the French troops have withdrawn, or has it improved?
It's certainly not improved. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think just yesterday or the day before, we saw a massacre of large numbers of civilians again. And they are right on our border, so we have a good idea of what is going on. The security situation does not appear to have improved, and the need for us to find a solution to this terrorist insurgency in West Africa has grown stronger and stronger.
Are you obviously worried, I assume from what you said, about the state of democracy in West Africa? There are coups. There are also the issue of presidential terms, being changed. We change the constitution.
It's a difficult period. You'll have these up and downs, and right now
you're going down.
It's down. But I'm confident that the majority of people in West Africa continue to have great faith. I mean, for instance, when people had doubts about which way it was going to go in Senegal, you saw the big turnout of people when the vote came in Senegal for them to elect their new leaders. The same in countries like Ghana. When the polls open, you will see the numbers of Ghanaians who are going to go out openly, freely to express their view as to who and what should be the next course of action in our countries. So the desire of our people to live within a democratic culture, to me, is incontestable.
Right. In your country, obviously, this is your last weeks as president. You've decided not to change the constitution to be able to run again. It never crossed your mind?
Never. That was never part. That's not been part of it. I was one of those who fought for the constitution of Ghana as it is. It's one of those.
But sometimes in power, you say,
No, I'm not one of those leaders. I believe that once the ground rules have been made, it is important for the stability of the country that people who are in office respect the ground rules. It encourages others also to do so. The stability in Ghana today has a lot to do with the fact that we have been going through these regular popular consultations. They've been accepted by the people. They've been accepted by the political class. It's proved to be a stabilizing feature of our politics.
The opposition is worried about the fairness of the election. They're saying the way voter registration is going is not fair. They want an audit. They don't trust you.
It's not me. I'm not responsible.
The Electoral Commission.
I'm not responsible for the electoral process. That's the Electoral Commission. They had an opportunity the other day. The Electoral Commission chose to broadcast publicly its deliberations on these issues, and I think the whole country came to realize that in fact there was very little substance in the claims that the opposition was making, and they have now gone ahead to say that they will abide by the program that the Electoral Commission has laid out. I think that means implicitly that the demands that they were making have been shelved, and they have to be shelved because there's no substance to it.
Right. Are you concerned about protest movements? We've seen a lot of protests. Some activists were arrested, put in jail. The opposition is saying you're trying to stifle dissent.
I'm not responsible for jailing people in Ghana. The courts in Ghana are independent institutions, and they have been all through this period of the Fourth Republic. People misconduct themselves and they're brought before court. It's for the court to deal with them. That's not a matter.
It has nothing to do about politics.
It has nothing to do with the executive. And their behavior is what lands them in problem with the police and with the courts. It's not the protests. How can the president, who himself, his political career was aided by leading protests, have problems with protests? I don't have problems with protests. And nothing is done in Ghana to prevent people from airing their views on anything.
One piece of good news for your vice president who's running is the agreement with your creditors. Ghana was in a very, very difficult situation. Right. 2 years ago, it defaulted on its debt repayments. Now there's just
It didn't default. It's suspended.
It's suspended then.
It didn't default.
Right.
It's an important distinction.
Right. But you had some good news because there's an agreement with now nearly all your creditors.
Right.
How much of a sign is it for Ghana? Is it just a respite, or is it really a game changer for Ghana?
I think it's an important development because, first of all, it is a sign of the confidence that your creditors have in your economy. That 98.6% of those holding the commercial debt of Ghana have agreed on the reworking of the debt. That's what essentially the restructuring is about. They're going to, as from next week, exchange their bonds for new bonds which have a different maturity dates, different rates of interest. $13 billion of money was restructured as a result of this agreement. $5 billion equipment, 37% of the nominal value of our debt has been essentially cancelled. And another $4.3 billion of savings on interest will also accrue during the period. So altogether, you're talking about savings to the Ghanaian exchequer of something in the region of $10 billion. That's a significant amount of money. And what it is meaning is that Ghana as economy is now back to where it was before the crisis.
As a quick conclusion, you're confident that you will hand over the baton to your vice president?
I believe that first of all, he's waging a good campaign. He has a message that is resonating, especially with the young people in Ghana. And secondly, he has a good record to defend. Despite the economic difficulties, the Ghanaian people know that in nearly 8 years in which we were in office, we're not wasted. We did a lot in the major reforms in education, in our health system, in our road infrastructure, in the development of the digital economy. They're key ingredients of the Ghanaian economy that have seen significant improvements and developments since we came back. So there's a record on which he's campaigning. At the same time, he's also brought some new ideas to the surface, which are ideas, especially of how the young people can also now get involved in developing themselves and the nation's economy. And that is what is giving me confidence that he's going to win. And certainly that is my hope. But I believe that he will win, and that you'll remember this discussion when you hear the news that comes out of it.
The assertion that the withdrawal of French troops is to blame for heightened terrorism overlooks this critical history. Instead, it reflects a selective narrative that aligns with Western interests, potentially positioning Akufo-Addo as a favorable ally in the eyes of Western leaders. By framing the issue as a consequence of troop withdrawals, he diverts attention from the complex realities of regional instability rooted in external interventions. The praise often accompanies leaders like Akufo-Addo from Western powers raises questions about the underlying motivations. When Western nations commend African leaders, it is essential to scrutinize the implications of such endorsements. Are these leaders genuinely serving the interest of their people, or are they aligning themselves with policies that benefit foreign agendas? Historically, many African leaders who have received accolades from the West have done so at the expense of their own populations. The notion of good governance espoused by Western nations frequently translate into adherence into neoliberal economic policies that prioritize foreign investment or local welfare. In this context, Akufo-Addo's statements may serve to solidify his standing with Western powers, while potentially undermining the sovereignty and security of Ghana and its neighbors. As citizens and observers of African politics, it is our responsibility to engage critically with the narratives presented by our leaders. We must ask, who benefits from these statements? Are our leaders prioritizing the needs and safety of their people, or are they succumbing to the external pressures that ultimately serve foreign interests? In the face of increasing terrorism and instability in the Sahel, it is vital that leaders like Akufo-Addo prioritize genuine security solutions that address the root causes of violence, rather than perpetuating narratives that align with Western interests. This requires a commitment to sovereignty, regional cooperation, and a rejection of the neo-colonial dynamics that have historically plagued Africa. The reflections of Ahmed Sekou Touré remind us that the praise of colonizers should prompt skepticism rather than acceptance. As we navigate the complexities of modern African leadership, let us strive for a future where leaders are held accountable for their actions and where the voices of the people are truly heard. Only then can we hope to break free from the cycles of exploitation and emerge as empowered nations, united in our quest for peace, security, and self-determination.